Dear student, myself Prakash Garg, Assistant Professor, Department of Geology. Today we discuss sedimentary rocks formation and characteristics. Weathering. What is the weathering? Weathering is the process of breaking down rocks and minerals into smaller pieces by water, wind, and ice. What is the sediment? The sedimentary rocks are formed from the breaking apart of other rocks like igneous, metamorphic, or sedimentary rocks, and cementation, compaction, and recrystallization of those the broken pieces of rocks. Sedimentary rocks are formed from broken pieces of rocks. These broken pieces of rocks are called sediments. The word sedimentary rocks come from the root word sediments. Sedimentary rocks are usually formed in water. Stream and river carry sediments in their currents. When the current slow around a bend or river empty into lake or ocean or another river, the sediment fall out because of gravity. The larger sediment fall out first and lightest sediment fall out last. Diagram above show layer of sediment that were laid down in a lake. In spring, the lake receive a influx of water from the mountain snow melt. These snow melt carry with it a large amount of sediment that become suspended in lake water. As the sediment settled out during the summer and especially in the winter, if the lake becomes frozen over, the sediment come to rest on bottom. The heaviest and largest particles settle out first. Lighter sediment such as silt and clay settled out last. The laying down of rock forming material by a natural agent is called deposition. The natural agent of deposition are water, wind, gravity, and wind. Sediment size chart. Sediment classified on the basis of their size. The size of sediment is defined by the size of particles that make up the sediments. The sedimentary rocks formed in a three-way from these different size sediments. Boulder more than 256 mm size, cobble 64 to 256 mm size, pebble 4 to 64 mm size, granule 2 to 4 mm size, sand 1 to 1 by 16 mm, silt 1 by 256 to 1 by 16 mm, clay less than 1 by 256 mm size. A sedimentary rock is a layered rock that is formed from the compaction, cementation, and recrystallization of sediments. The photos above the show layer of sedimentary rocks that were deposited in a flat horizontal layer. These layers were then uplifted and bent by mountain buildings. Compaction. Compaction is the squeezing together of layers of sediment due to the great weight of the overlying layers of rocks. The squeezing of layer result in reducing the thickness of the original layer. When the layer are reduced in the thickness, the pore space around the sediment are also reduced, which led to the tighter packing of layer. Cementation. Cementation is the changing of sediment into a rocks by the filling space around the sediment with chemical precipitate of minerals binding the sediments and forming the solid rocks. Calcite and silica are common mineral that cement the sediments together. Recrystallization is the formation of new mineral grain that are the larger than the original grain. As the sediment recrystallize, they arrange themselves in a series of the interlocking crystal that connect the another grain together into a solid rocks. Sedimentary rocks form a thin layer of rocks over 75% of Earth's surface. They are the site of very important resources such as a groundwater, coal, oil, and soil. Shale, sandstone, and limestone are the most common type of sedimentary rocks. They are formed by the most common minerals that is the found on or near the surface of earth. Minerals that form these the sedimentary rocks is feldspar. Running water such as the mountain stream above sort and transport more sediment than other agent of deposition. Strata and fossils. The rocks layer are called strata or bands. Can be seen on eroded cliff face, river valley, and canyon where the earthquake have uplifted the land. These the strata often contain the fossils formed from the hard skeleton or cells of the creature that lived during that time. If the sediment are the mainly the plant material, the result is peat or coal. Sedimentary rocks. These are the two major grouping of sedimentary rocks, clastic sedimentary rocks and non-clastic sedimentary rocks. Clastic sedimentary rocks, example conglomerate, shale, sandstone, siltstone, mudstone and gravic. Non-clastic sedimentary rocks, example limestone, chert, shale. Clastic sedimentary rocks, the fragment of pre-existing rocks or minerals that make up a sedimentary rocks called are called clasts. Sedimentary rocks make up of the clast are called clastic. Clastic indicate that the particles have been broken and transported. These the particles and grains have become the solid rocks by process of the compaction or cementation of sediments. Clastic sedimentary rocks are primarily classified on the basis of their size of their clast. Non-clastic sedimentary rocks. Non-clastic sedimentary rocks form from the precipitation of mineral from oceanic water or from the breakdown of the shell and bones of sea creatures. Precipitation is the separating of solid from a solution. The sea animals, such as the coral, produce the calcium carbonate solution that harden to form rocks as the chemical that come from the minerals or biological precipitation mix with sediments on the floor of ocean or lake. They crystallize and grow in space around the sediment. When these crystals grow large enough to fill the space, they harden and form a solid rocks. Oceanic sedimentary rocks. Organic sedimentary rocks. Organic sedimentary rocks form from the build up and decay of plant and animals material. These usually form in the swamp region in which there is abundant supply of the growing vegetation and low amount of oxygen. The vegetation build so quickly that new layers of vegetation bury the, the dead and decaying material very quickly. The bacteria that decay the vegetation need oxygen to survive because these the decaying layer are buried so fast bacteria use up the what oxygen there is available and cannot the finish the decomposition of vegetation. The overlying layers become so heavy that they squeeze out the water and other compound that aid in decay. Coal. This compressed vegetation form coal. The longer and deeper that coal is the buried, make it's the higher quality. Peat is the first stage of coal formation. Lignite is the next grade of coal followed by bituminous and highest grade anthracite. Anthracite is the actually a metamorphic rocks. It formed during the mountain building when the compaction and friction are extremely high. The form of coal burned very hot and almost smokeless. It is used in the production of the high grade steel. Shale is the one of the most common sedimentary rocks. It is the composed of the silt and clay that has been the compacted and squeezed together to form a solid rock. Shale is the usually found in the thin layer. The silt and clay that the composes shale is the made of the very small pieces of the weathered rocks. These the pieces are 1 by 16 to 1 by 256 of millimeter in the diameter. The color of the sample of shell that of clay or silt that it was the formed from. Sandstone and mudstone. Sandstone and mudstone are the clastic sedimentary rocks that form from the cementing together of the sand size grain and silt size grain respectively formed a solid rocks. Quartz is the most abundant mineral that form the sandstone. Calcium carbonate, silica and iron has been added to water that is the connect con- contact with the sand grains. These the minerals grow crystal in the passage around the sand grain as the crystals fill the gap. The individual sand grain are the now the transformed into a solid rocks. Limestone. Is most abundant of non-clastic sedimentary rocks. Limestone is the produced from the mineral calcium carbonate and sediments. The main source of the limestone is the limy ooze formed in ocean. The calcium carbonate can be precipitated from the ocean water or it can be the formed from the sea creature that secrete lime such as algae and coral. Chalk is the another type. Chalk is the another type of limestone that is the made up of very small single cell organism. Chalk is the usually white or grey in color. Limestone cave. Limestone cave are the interesting geological features. They form because the limestone deposit located under the ground are chemically dissolved by the moving groundwater. The groundwater contain mineral that make the water slightly acidic. When an acid comes into contact with a rocks that is the composed of calcium carbonate, a chemical reaction take place. The acid dissolve the limestone calcium carbonate that goes into the groundwater which move down further into the cave. The water will find its the way into smaller cracks and crevices. The dripping water will create the formation of stalactite and stalagmite. The photo show these is the Wetmore cave. Conglomerate is the clastic sedimentary rocks that form from the cementing rounded cobbles and pebble sized rock fragments. Conglomerate formed by river movement or oceanic wave action which round the rock edges. The cementing agent that fill the space to form solid rocks conglomerate are silica, calcite, iron or iron oxides. Other the sedimentary rocks halite, chert, gravik, breccia.